The streets were never kind. They swallowed people whole, chewing them up before spitting them out into nothingness. I knew it too well. I was one of them. Cold, hungry, forgotten. I crouched beside a crumbling brick wall, my arms wrapped tightly around a tattered backpack. It was all I had left. People passed by like I was invisible, their designer shoes clicking against the pavement, their perfume taunting my senses. Then something changed. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The door swung open, and a man stepped out. He was different from the rest. Sharp suit, powerful stride. But his eyes, there was something in them. A weight. A past. He glanced at me. Not like the others did, with disgust or pity. No, he actually saw me. "Kid," he said, his voice firm yet laced with curiosity. "What's in the bag?" The question sent a jolt through me. My grip on the bag tightened. I hesitated. Then I slowly unzipped it. His breath hitched. His face paled. And just like that, my life was about to change forever. His reaction was instant. Sharp inhale, fists clenching at his sides. His eyes darted to me, then back to the bag. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice lower, almost urgent. I swallowed hard. "I found it," I whispered. "In an alley. I didn't steal it, I swear." His jaw clenched. "You have no idea what you're holding." I stared at him, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The weight of the bag suddenly felt heavier. What had I just gotten myself into? I hesitated before peering into the bag again. My fingers trembled as I pushed aside the ragged clothes, the scraps of food I'd managed to collect. There, tucked deep inside, was an envelope. Thick, heavy, marked with an emblem I didn't recognize. The man's eyes darkened as he reached for it. I pulled it back. "What is this?" I asked, suspicion lacing my voice. His lips pressed into a thin line. "It's worth more than you can imagine." A chill ran through me. Was I holding something dangerous? His expression shifted, a mix of calculation and something else. Regret? "You have two choices, kid," he said. "You give me that bag and I walk away. No questions, no consequences." I frowned. "And the second choice?" He studied me. "You come with me." I swallowed hard. This wasn't just about the bag anymore. This was about me. And something told me this man knew more about my past than I did. Against every survival instinct screaming in my head, I climbed into the car. The door shut with a heavy thud, sealing my fate. As the city lights blurred outside the tinted windows, I realized something. This wasn't just about money. This was a test. And I had just stepped into a world where one wrong move could destroy me. The car smelled of leather and something sharp. Power, maybe. The man sat across from me, his gaze heavy, unreadable. I gripped the bag tighter, my pulse hammering. "Where are we going?" I finally asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. The man adjusted his cufflinks, his expression calm but calculating. "Somewhere safe. But first, I need you to tell me exactly where you found that bag." I hesitated. Something about the way he asked made it clear that my answer could decide my fate. "An alley. Behind a dumpster," I said slowly. "I was looking for food." He exhaled sharply. "And no one was around?" I shook my head. "Not when I found it." His fingers drummed against the leather seat. A muscle twitched in his jaw. "Then you're luckier than you know, kid." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone and typed something. Moments later, the car took a sudden turn, speeding up. My stomach tightened. What had I just walked into? The car rolled into an underground garage. Dim lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows. The doors locked with a click as soon as we parked. "Out," the man ordered. I hesitated before stepping out, the bag still clutched in my arms. He led me to an elevator, and as soon as we stepped inside, he turned to me. "You need to listen carefully, kid. The people who lost that bag, they won't just let it go." I swallowed hard. "Are they dangerous?" His silence was my answer. He ran a hand down his face, then met my gaze. "If they find out you have it, you're dead." The elevator dinged. My blood ran cold. Whatever was in that bag, had just made me a target. The elevator doors slid open, revealing a penthouse so massive it made my head spin. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across one side, showing the city's skyline. But I couldn't focus on that, because right in the center of the room was a security team. Armed. Waiting. I took a step back, but the man caught my arm. "Relax," he said. "They're here to help." "Help with what?" I demanded, yanking free. He walked to a sleek desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out an identical envelope to the one in my bag. "Because, kid," he said, flipping it open, "this is a list of every corrupt official, criminal, and businessman in the city." I stiffened. "And your bag?" "It holds the final piece of evidence that can take them all down." I looked down at the bag, my heart hammering. I had been sleeping next to a ticking bomb. The man leaned against his desk, his sharp gaze locked on me. "You have two choices," he said, echoing his earlier words in the car. "You walk away now and forget you ever found that bag." I didn't move. "And the other choice?" His lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You help me bring them down." I scoffed. "You want me, a homeless kid, to go against criminals?" His eyes darkened. "You think they see you as just a homeless kid?" "No. You're a loose end now. And in their world, loose ends don't live long." The weight of his words hit me like a punch. I had never been part of anything before. But now, I was at the center of something bigger than I could have ever imagined. And there was no turning back. The man, who finally introduced himself as Marcus Reed, wasted no time. "From now on, you don't go anywhere alone," he ordered. "If anyone asks about the bag, you don't say a word. Understand?" I nodded. Marcus studied me for a long moment before sighing. "Kid, what's your name?" I hesitated. "Zane." He smirked. "All right, Zane. Welcome to the war." I swallowed hard. I wasn't ready for war. But war had already found me. Marcus led me into a massive office space, the walls lined with monitors showing live security feeds from various locations. My heart pounded as I took in the sheer scale of what I was now a part of. I placed my bag on the desk, fingers hesitating over the zipper. "Before I open this," I said slowly, "I need to know why me?" Marcus studied me for a long moment, then exhaled. "Because you're an unknown variable. No records, no paper trail. They wouldn't have expected you to have this." I swallowed hard. "So, what happens if I open this and it's something that gets us all killed?" His lips pressed into a thin line. "Then, kid, we're already dead." The room felt 10 degrees colder. I took a deep breath and unzipped the bag. I dumped the bag's contents onto the table. Crumpled clothes, a half-eaten protein bar, and the envelope. Marcus reached for it immediately, sliding a knife through the top and pulling out the papers. His eyes skimmed the first page, then his expression darkened. "This isn't right," he muttered. "Something's missing." He rifled through the papers, his brows furrowing. Then he turned to me, his face stone-cold serious. "Where's the last file?" My stomach dropped. I don't know. That's everything that was in there." Marcus clenched his jaw, his hand running through his hair in frustration. "This list is worthless, without the missing piece." I frowned. What was in it? He looked at me, eyes unreadable. "A name. The one person tying all of this together." A chilling realization crept up my spine. If I didn't have it, someone else did. And that meant we were already too late. The first gunshot shattered the silence. Glass exploded from the windows as Marcus tackled me to the ground, shielding me with his body. The security team burst into action, drawing weapons as chaos erupted around us. "They found us!" Marcus shouted over the gunfire. "We have to move, now." I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding so fast it hurt. This wasn't just a game. They were trying to kill me. We burst out of the penthouse, sprinting down the emergency stairwell. Marcus's men stayed behind, exchanging fire with the attackers. "Who are they?" I panted as we took the steps two at a time. Marcus's jaw was tight. "Hired guns. Sent by the people who want that file back." I gripped the railing, my mind spinning. So, they think I have it? He gave me a grim look.
No.
They know you don't. I froze. Then why? They're sending a message. Marcus cut in. They don't need you to have the file, Zane. They just need you dead. A chill ran through my body. I wasn't a loose end anymore. I was a target. The stairwell exit led to an underground parking garage. Marcus shoved me behind a black SUV and pulled out a gun. Stay down, he ordered. I barely had time to breathe before more shots rang out. The air filled with the deafening echoes of gunfire. My ears rang. My lungs burned. Then, sudden silence. Marcus's hand clamped onto my arm. Move! We dashed toward another car, this one already running. A driver sat inside, expression tense. You're late. Drive. Marcus snapped. The moment the doors shut, we sped into the night, leaving behind the wreckage of what had once been a safe house. But I knew one thing for certain. There were no safe houses anymore. The city lights blurred past us as we sped through back streets, weaving through traffic at dangerous speeds. Marcus's knuckles were white against his gun. We need to find that file before they do. I gripped my seatbelt, still trying to catch my breath. But I told you I don't have it. Then someone planted that bag for you to find, Marcus growled. They wanted you involved. A sick realization twisted in my gut. I wasn't just caught in this. I had been set up. The car pulled into a dark alley. Marcus turned in his seat, his expression unreadable. You want to survive, kid? I swallowed. Yeah. Then listen carefully. He leaned in. We're not the only ones looking for that file. I frowned. What do you mean? His voice was low, serious. There's someone else. Someone who might want to help us. I narrowed my eyes. And why would they help? Marcus's jaw tightened. Because they hate the people we're going after more than we do. I hesitated. If this was the only way out, I had no choice.
Fine, I said.
Let's meet them. Marcus nodded. And just like that, I was about to walk into even deeper waters. The meeting was set for midnight. An abandoned warehouse near the docks. We arrived early, scanning the area for threats. Then footsteps. A shadow emerged from the darkness. I recognized him instantly, and my blood ran cold, because the person standing before us was the same man who had abandoned me years ago. Marcus stiffened beside me. You know him? I nodded slowly, my voice barely a whisper. He's my father. A cruel smile tugged at the man's lips. Zane, he drawled. You've grown. Rage and confusion twisted inside me. Why are you here? His smile widened. Because, son, I'm the one who put that bag in your hands. The world tilted. Everything I thought I knew shattered. Marcus grabbed my arm, pulling me back. What the hell is this? My father chuckled. Let's just say, I needed insurance. I clenched my fists. You used me? His smirk didn't waver. And it worked. My stomach churned. I had spent years believing I was just a nobody, a homeless kid trying to survive. But now I realized the truth. I had been a pawn in this game long before I ever found that bag. My fists clenched at my sides as I stared at the man who had abandoned me years ago, my father. Everything felt like it had been yanked out from under me. You put that bag in my hands? My voice was raw, shaking with a mixture of fury and disbelief. My father smirked, his expensive suit unwrinkled despite the filth of the warehouse. I needed a nobody to carry something too dangerous for me to hold on to myself. And you, my dear son, were perfect for the job. Marcus stiffened beside me. So you used a kid to handle your dirty work? That's low. Even for a man like you. My father barely spared him a glance. Spare me the moral lecture, Reed. You've done worse in your time. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. So what? You knew they'd come after me? A cruel chuckle escaped my father's lips. Oh, they won't just come after you, Zane. They'll tear apart everything in their path to get what they want. My blood ran cold. I had thought this was just about the file. But it was about me. I was the leverage. I was the bait. Marcus pulled me back, his grip firm. We're leaving. But my father held up a hand, his expression turning serious. Not before I make you an offer, son. I glared at him. You don't get to call me that. He sighed, looking almost amused.
Fine, Zane.
I'll cut to the chase. I want that file back. You give it to me, and I'll make you disappear. Money, a new identity, anything you want. I stared at him, feeling the weight of my past crushing down on me. For years, I had nothing. No home. No family. No safety. Now, he was offering me all of it on a silver platter. But there was a catch. What happens to the people on that list? Asked, my voice hoarse. My father smiled. That's not your concern. I looked at Marcus, who shook his head slightly. This wasn't just a bribe.
It was a test.
And I already knew my answer. I stepped forward, looking my father dead in the eyes. You left me to rot on the streets. You let me starve. You let me freeze. And now you want me to help you? He shrugged, unconcerned. That was then. This is now. Take the deal, and you'll never have to suffer again. I exhaled slowly.
No.
His eyes darkened. Think carefully, Zane. I took a step closer, my voice firm. I already have. A flicker of something, annoyance? Disappointment. Crossed his face. Then, without warning, his expression went cold. And I realized, too late, that I had just made a deadly mistake. My father's fingers twitched. That was all the warning I had. Gunfire erupted from the rafters. Marcus grabbed me, yanking me to the ground just as bullets tore through the air. Sparks flew as metal was ripped apart. The warehouse turned into chaos. Move, Marcus shouted, shoving me toward cover. I scrambled behind a stack of crates, my heart slamming against my ribs. How did they know we'd be here? I gasped. Marcus's face was grim. He was never alone. He was waiting for us. I peeked over the crates. My father stood in the open, untouched, watching the scene unfold like it was a show meant for his entertainment. And that's when I knew. I was never meant to walk out of this place alive. The gunman advanced. Marcus fired back, but we were outnumbered. Zane, listen to me, he said, reloading. There's an exit through the side door. On my signal, you run. What about you? I demanded. I'll cover you. I shook my head.
No.
I'm not leaving you to die. Marcus's jaw clenched. Kid, this isn't a debate. A bullet whizzed past my ear, silencing the argument. I grabbed his arm. Then we run together. He stared at me. Then, with a sharp nod, he fired one last shot and we took off. We burst through the side door into an alley, the cold night air hitting me like a slap. Footsteps pounded behind us. They're coming, I gasped. Marcus pulled me toward a parked motorcycle. Get on. We barely had time to breathe before the first shots rang out. Tires screeched. The bike roared to life. And then we were speeding into the night, leaving behind the ruins of my past. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. We ditched the bike outside an abandoned factory. This is where we make our move, Marcus said, checking his gun. I wiped sweat from my face. And what move is that? He turned to me, his eyes sharp. Ending this. I swallowed. And if we fail? Marcus smirked. Then at least we go down fighting. I nodded, determination settling in my bones. One way or another. This ended tonight. We moved fast, setting up traps, positioning ourselves for the inevitable. And then, the cars arrived. Blacked-out SUVs. Armed men. And, at the center of it all, my father. He stepped forward, hands in his pockets, looking bored. You should have taken the deal, Zane. I took a breath, steadying myself. Maybe. But then I wouldn't get to do this. I threw the detonator. The explosion rocked the ground, fire bursting through the vehicles. The gunmen scrambled. And then, the battle began. It was chaos.
Fire.
Bullets.
Shouts.
Marcus and I moved like shadows, taking them down one by one. And then, I found myself face to face with my father. He smirked, raising a gun. Go on, son, he said. Do what you came here to do. I tightened my grip on the weapon in my hand. Everything in me screamed for revenge, for justice, for everything he had stolen from me. And yet, I lowered the gun. His smirk faltered. You don't have the guts. I stepped closer, voice steady. No, I just want you to live knowing you lost. His expression twisted in rage. And then Marcus knocked him out cold. It was over. By morning, the city was different. The people on that list were exposed, arrested. The empire my father built?
Gone.
I stood on a rooftop, watching the sunrise. Marcus joined me. So, what now? I exhaled slowly. I don't know.
He smirked.
Well, kid, you could always work with me. I glanced at him, surprised. Then I smiled. For the first time in my life, I had a choice. And I wasn't just some homeless kid anymore. I was something more.